Before you scroll away, take a close look at these 3 old Lincoln wheat pennies. At first glance, they may look like ordinary 1-cent coins, but some wheat pennies have sold for hundreds, thousands, and even hundreds of thousands of dollars because of their rarity, low mintages, and famous minting errors. The Lincoln wheat cent was first introduced in 1909 and remained in production until 1958, becoming one of the most iconic coins in American history. It was also the first U.S. coin to feature President Abraham Lincoln. The reverse side displays 2 wheat stalks, which is why collectors call them wheat pennies. In today's video, we are looking at 3 fascinating Lincoln wheat pennies that have captured the attention of collectors around the world. Some wheat pennies are known for rare dates, while others are famous because of unique mint errors and extremely low survival numbers. Coins such as the 1909 SVDB, 1922 No-D, 1943 bronze cent, and 1955 doubled die have become legends in the coin collecting community, with certain examples selling for astonishing amounts at auction. So the big question is, could one of these wheat pennies be hiding a valuable variety, a rare mint mark, or a detail that collectors are willing to pay serious money for? Stay with me as we examine each coin one by one, uncover their history, explore what makes them special, and reveal the values that some Lincoln wheat pennies have achieved in today's collector market. You might be surprised by what a single penny can be worth. Let's start with the first Lincoln wheat penny and see what secrets this historic coin has to reveal. Welcome back to my channel Coin Vault USA. Imagine finding a simple penny in an old jar, a forgotten coin album, or even loose change, only to discover that it could be worth as much as $25,000. It sounds unbelievable, but that's exactly why collectors continue searching through Lincoln wheat pennies every single day. Among the millions of pennies produced in the United States, some have become incredibly valuable because of rare minting mistakes, exceptional preservation, and unique characteristics that most people never notice. Today, we are taking a close look at the fascinating 1952D Lincoln wheat penny, a coin that many people overlook but one that can hold surprising secrets. At first glance, the 1952D wheat penny doesn't seem special. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of these coins, and they circulated throughout America during a period of tremendous change. Families were buying televisions, suburbs were expanding, and millions of Americans carried these pennies in their pockets without giving them a second thought. Yet hidden among those ordinary coins were a few extraordinary examples that would later attract the attention of serious collectors. The story begins inside the Denver Mint. Every 1952D wheat penny started as a blank copper planchette. These blanks were fed into powerful coin presses where enormous pressure stamped Abraham Lincoln's portrait onto one side and the famous wheat ears onto the reverse. The entire process happened in a fraction of a second. Thousands of coins could be produced every hour. But whenever machines operate at such high speeds, mistakes become inevitable. And sometimes those mistakes create the coins that collectors dream about finding. Most 1952D wheat pennies found today are worth only a small premium over face value. That's the reality. However, the real excitement begins when an unusual feature appears on the coin. Experienced collectors know that a single minting error can completely change a coin's value. That's why they examine every detail carefully, searching for clues that separate an ordinary penny from an extraordinary one. One of the first things collectors look for is doubling. A genuine doubled die can make the date, lettering, or design elements appear slightly doubled. To the untrained eye, it may look insignificant, but to a collector, it can be the difference between a common coin and one worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The stronger and clearer the doubling, the greater the collector interest. Finding a true doubled die on a 1952D wheat penny instantly makes the coin far more desirable than a normal example. Another error that attracts attention is an off-center strike. This occurs when the coin blank is not perfectly positioned inside the press before it is struck. The result is a design that appears shifted, leaving a blank area on part of the coin. Small off-center strikes can be interesting, But dramatic examples are where collectors become excited. If the date remains visible while a significant portion of the design is missing, values can climb rapidly. A coin that once represented a single cent can suddenly become worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Then there are die cracks, one of the most fascinating signs of a die reaching the end of its life. Over time, the immense pressure used during production causes tiny fractures to develop in the dies. These fractures transfer onto the coins as raised lines. While some die cracks are small and subtle, others become large and dramatic. In certain cases, pieces of the die actually break away, creating what collectors call cuds. These unusual features tell the story of a die under tremendous stress, and collectors often pay strong premiums for the most impressive examples. The mystery continues with struck-through errors. During production, a foreign object such as grease, debris, or another material can become trapped between the die and the coin. When the strike occurs, part of the design fails to appear correctly. The result is a coin that looks unlike any normal penny. Some struck-through errors are minor, while others are dramatic enough to capture immediate attention. Collectors enjoy these errors because they provide direct evidence of what happened during the minting process. Double-struck coins create another level of excitement. Imagine a coin being struck once but failing to leave the press correctly. Instead, it receives a second strike. The result can be a fascinating overlapping design that appears almost unreal. These errors are instantly recognizable and often command substantial premiums because of their visual appeal. Even people with little knowledge of coins can usually tell that something unusual happened during production. As valuable as mint errors can be, condition remains one of the most important factors affecting value. Two identical 1952 wheat pennies can have dramatically different prices simply because one survived in better condition than the other. A heavily worn coin may have limited value, while a sharply detailed example with original mint luster can command significantly more. Collectors especially prize coins that retain their original red color, because copper tends to darken over time. The better the preservation, the stronger the demand. Professional grading takes this concept even further. When a coin is examined and certified by a major grading service, collectors gain confidence in its authenticity and condition. High-grade examples become increasingly rare because most coins spent decades circulating through everyday commerce. As grades rise, populations shrink, and when rarity combines with strong demand, prices can increase dramatically. This brings us back to the question that started today's investigation. Can a 1952 Lincoln Wheat penny really be worth $25,000? For the average example, the answer is no. Most are common coins with modest values. But coin collecting has never been about averages. It has always been about exceptions. The exceptional error, the exceptional condition, the exceptional survivor that somehow escaped decades of wear and damage. That's why collectors continue searching through old collections, coin jars, estate sales, and inherited albums. Every coin tells a story. Most stories are ordinary, but every once in a while, a coin reveals something extraordinary. A hidden error, an unusual strike, a remarkable grade. And suddenly, what appeared to be an ordinary penny becomes a collector's prize. So the next time you come across a 1952 Lincoln Wheat penny, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Examine every detail. Study the lettering, the date, the surfaces, and the overall condition. Because somewhere among the millions of ordinary examples, a few remarkable coins still exist. And one of them could be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to recognize its true value. The real mystery isn't whether valuable 1952 wheat pennies exist. The real mystery is how many are still out there, undiscovered, at this very moment. What if I told you that a simple penny, the kind most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up, has sold for nearly $30,000? Sounds unbelievable, right? But that's exactly why collectors spend hours searching through old coin jars, estate collections, and forgotten boxes in attics. Because every once in a while, an ordinary-looking coin turns out to be something extraordinary. And today, we are investigating one of those coins. The 1953D Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, there's nothing particularly special about it. It's small, copper-colored, and looks like countless other pennies produced during the 1950s. But hidden among millions of these coins are rare varieties, valuable minting errors, and exceptionally preserved examples that can command surprisingly high prices. So before you dismiss that old wheat penny sitting in your collection, stay with me until the end. The most valuable detail on this coin is something many people never even think to check. To understand why collectors care about the 1953D wheat penny, we need to go back more than 70 years. America was changing rapidly in 1953. The country was experiencing economic growth. New technologies were entering everyday life, and the Lincoln wheat penny continued to circulate through the hands of millions of Americans every day. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of these pennies that year. Because so many were made, most people assume they can never be valuable. And that's where many collectors make a mistake. In coin collecting, value isn't always about how many coins were produced. Sometimes it's about condition. Sometimes it's about rarity within a common coin. And sometimes it's about mistakes made during the minting process. Those mistakes can transform a 1-cent coin into something worth hundreds, or even thousands, of dollars. Let's talk about how these pennies were created. The process seems simple. Blank copper planchets were fed into powerful coin presses. Dies carrying Lincoln's portrait on one side and the wheat ears design on the other struck each coin with tremendous force. Everything had to be perfectly aligned. But perfection rarely lasts forever. As dies wore down, cracked, shifted, or encountered debris, unusual coins began appearing. Mint workers considered them production errors. Today, collectors consider them treasures. Let's start with one of the most common and fascinating errors, the die crack error. Over time, the steel dies used to strike coins developed tiny fractures. When a cracked die struck a penny, a raised line appeared on the surface of the coin. Some die cracks are small and barely noticeable. Others stretch dramatically across the design. A minor die crack might bring only a few dollars. But larger, more visible examples can sell anywhere from $50 to over $150, depending on their appearance and condition. Not bad for a penny most people would never look at twice. Next comes a favorite among wheat penny collectors, the famous BIE error. This happens when a small die crack forms between the letters B and E in the word Liberty. The crack creates what looks like an extra letter I. Suddenly Liberty appears to read BIE. It's tiny, easy to miss. But once you know what you're looking for, it's surprisingly easy to spot. Most BIE examples sell for modest premiums, but collectors actively search for them because they represent a unique piece of minting history. Now let's move into more valuable territory, the repunched mint mark error. Back in the 1950s, mint marks were punched into dies by hand. Sometimes the first punch wasn't perfectly positioned, so the mint worker punched it again. The result was a visible doubling of the mint mark. On a 1953D wheat penny, traces of a second D can sometimes be found beneath or beside the primary mint mark. Collectors love these varieties. Depending on visibility and condition, values can range from $20 to over $100, and sometimes even more for exceptional examples. But things become even more interesting when we talk about the double die error. This is one of the most misunderstood coin errors. A true double die occurs during the creation of the die itself. The result is visible doubling in letters, numbers, or design details. Look closely at the date. Examine the word Liberty. Inspect I in God we trust. Strong doubling in these areas can significantly increase value. Some examples sell for tens of dollars. Others can bring several $100s when properly authenticated. And because many people confuse machine doubling with a true double die, valuable examples are occasionally overlooked. Another error collectors love is the off-center strike. Imagine a coin entering the press slightly out of position. When the dies strike, part of the design misses the coin completely. The result is dramatic. Part of the penny looks normal. Part appears blank. The more dramatic the shift, the more attention collectors pay. Small off-center strikes may sell for a modest premium. Larger examples with the date still visible can easily reach $100, $200, or even more. These are the kinds of errors that immediately grab attention. Then there are struck-through errors. These occur when grease, dirt, or foreign material gets between the die and the coin during striking. The obstruction prevents certain details from forming properly. Letters may appear weak. Parts of the design may seem missing. The result often looks mysterious and unusual. Collectors enjoy these errors because each one tells a different story about what happened during the minting process. Values vary widely, but strong examples often attract serious interest. Now here's the part most people don't realize. Even without a major error, a 1953D wheat penny can become surprisingly valuable if it's preserved in exceptional condition. Be worth a small premium, but a coin that somehow escaped circulation and retained its original mint luster enters a completely different category. Collectors compete aggressively for top-grade examples. As grades climb higher and higher, prices can increase dramatically. This is where some of the most valuable 1953D wheat pennies appear. The finest known examples have sold for astonishing amounts, approaching the kind of numbers that sound impossible for a 1-cent coin, including examples that have reached close to $30,000 at auction. And that's the reason collectors continue searching. Not because every coin is worth thousands, but because one extraordinary coin hidden among millions can change everything. So the next time you find a 1953D Lincoln wheat penny, don't focus only on the date. Look for die cracks. Search for a BIE error. Examine the mint mark. Check for doubling. Inspect the coin for off-center strikes and struck-through errors. And most importantly, pay attention to condition. Because the difference between an ordinary wheat penny and an extraordinary one is often hidden in the smallest details. And somewhere right now, in a forgotten coin jar or an old family collection, another valuable 1953D wheat penny may still be waiting to be discovered. The question is, will you recognize it before someone else does? Have you ever imagined that a simple penny could be worth more than $21,000? It sounds unbelievable, but that's exactly why collectors are constantly searching through old coin jars, bankrolls, and forgotten collections. Today we are investigating the fascinating story of the 1958 Lincoln wheat penny, a coin that many people overlook because it appears ordinary at first glance. Yet hidden among millions of these pennies are rare examples, valuable minting errors, and extraordinary varieties that have turned a 1-cent coin into a serious collector's prize. What makes this story even more interesting is that 1958 was the final year of the famous wheat penny design. For nearly 50 years, Americans carried Lincoln wheat cents in their pockets every day. And then in 1959, the design changed forever. That means the 1958 issue represents the end of an era, making it historically important even before we begin talking about values. Before checking your coin, it's important to understand mint marks. A coin with no mint mark was struck in Philadelphia, which collectors often refer to as the P mint, even though the letter P was not placed on the coin. A coin with a D mint mark was produced in Denver. Many collectors also know about S mint mark coins from San Francisco, but San Francisco did not strike regular circulation. 1958 wheat pennies. This small detail is often overlooked, but experienced collectors always pay attention to mint marks because they can affect rarity and value. The story of the 1958 wheat penny begins inside the US Mint where metal blanks called planchets were prepared for striking. Massive presses used hardened steel dies to stamp Abraham Lincoln's portrait onto one side and the famous wheat ears design onto the other. The process sounds straightforward, but the reality was much more complicated. Dies wore down, machinery experienced stress, and tiny mistakes sometimes occurred during production. Those mistakes created some of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered. Most ordinary 1958 wheat pennies are not worth a fortune. Millions were produced, and many examples still survive today. A heavily circulated coin may only be worth a small premium over face value. However, things become much more interesting when we start examining condition. A coin that still displays bright original red color, strong luster, and virtually no wear can be worth dramatically more than a common circulated example. This is why experienced collectors inspect every detail carefully before determining value. But condition is only part of the story. The real excitement begins when mint errors enter the picture. Point 1. Of the most frequently encountered errors is the die crack. During production, the steel die experiences enormous pressure. Eventually small cracks can form. When metal flows into these cracks during striking, raised lines appear on the coin. Some die cracks are tiny and barely noticeable, while others stretch dramatically across the surface. Minor examples may sell for around $10 to $40. Stronger examples can reach $50 to $200. And dramatic specimens sometimes bring several $100s. Because collectors enjoy seeing evidence of the die's deterioration. Another fascinating error is the off-center strike. This occurs when the planchette is not positioned correctly between the dies before being struck. As a result, part of the design is missing while a blank area appears on the coin. A small off-center strike might sell for $25 to $100, while more dramatic examples, showing 30 or 40% off-center, with a visible date can reach hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Collectors especially value examples where the date remains readable because authenticity and identification become much easier. Another error that attracts significant attention is the struck-through error. During the minting process, a small piece of debris such as grease, cloth fibers, or another foreign object may become trapped between the die and the planchette. When the coin is struck, that object prevents part of the design from forming correctly. The result is a unique error because every obstruction is different. Minor struck-through examples often sell for $20 to $100, while stronger and more dramatic examples can bring several $100 or even more, depending on their appearance. Broad strike errors are also highly collectible. Normally, a retaining collar surrounds the coin during striking and gives it its proper shape. If the collar fails, the coin expands outward and appears wider than normal. These unusual-looking pieces often sell for $30 to $150, while stronger examples can command several $100s. Then there are double strike errors, where a coin receives more than one strike. Sometimes the second strike is slightly offset, creating overlapping images and duplicated design elements. These errors are visually dramatic and easy for collectors to appreciate. Minor examples can sell for $75 to $300, while stronger examples often exceed several $100s and occasionally reach into the thousands. However, none of these errors generate as much excitement as the legendary 1958 double die obverse. This variety occupies a special place in Lincoln cent collecting because it is one of the most famous double dies ever discovered. Unlike machine doubling, which occurs during striking, a true double die originates during the creation of the die itself. On genuine examples, the doubling is bold and obvious, particularly on Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date. Collectors have spent decades searching for this variety because only a tiny number of authentic specimens are known. Values have reached astonishing levels, with examples selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars and some reported auction results climbing even higher. This incredible rarity is one reason collectors carefully inspect every 1958 wheat penny they encounter. Of course, finding a major variety is only part of the equation. Condition can multiply value dramatically. Professional grading services evaluate a coin's wear, luster, strike quality, eye appeal, and surface preservation. Lincoln cents are often categorized by color as brown, red-brown, or red. Red. Examples retaining most of their original mint color generally command the strongest premiums. This means two identical 1958 wheat pennies can have vastly different values simply because one survived in better condition. A coin worth only a few cents in worn condition could become worth hundreds of dollars in top-grade certified condition. This is why collectors handle valuable coins carefully and often store them in protective holders. Another important point is that not every unusual-looking coin is actually a mint error. Coins can be damaged after leaving the mint. Scratches, dents, environmental damage, cleaning, and other forms of alteration are often mistaken for rare errors by beginners. Experienced collectors know the difference and understand the importance of authentication before assigning significant value to any coin. So can a 1958 Lincoln wheat penny really be worth $21,000 or more? The answer is yes, under the right circumstances. A high-grade certified coin, a major mint error, a rare variety, or a combination of these factors can produce remarkable values. While most examples will never reach those levels, the possibility is exactly what keeps collectors searching year after year. The 1958 Lincoln wheat penny is much more than just another old coin. It represents the final chapter of one of America's most beloved coin series, a historic farewell to the wheat cent design that circulated for nearly half a century. Hidden among ordinary examples are fascinating minting mistakes, scarce varieties, and exceptional condition rarities that continue to captivate collectors around the world. So the next time you come across a 1958 wheat penny, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look at the date. Check for AD mint mark or no mint mark. Examine the lettering carefully. Search for doubling. Inspect the surfaces for unusual strike characteristics. And pay attention to overall condition. Because somewhere among the millions of ordinary pennies that still exist, there may be a remarkable survivor waiting to be discovered, and its true value could be far greater than anyone expects.